What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of It's All a Game podcast. NBA Finals are officially over, and I have taken more than a week plus of just grieving this series that I'm finally ready to talk about it. So, without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right. Now, if you look at the series as a whole, the first thing that stands out to me is how close every single game was. Let's go over how it played out. Game one, Knicks went 105-95 in San Antonio, 10-point difference. It was a very close game. The Spurs just lost it in the end. Second game, Knicks won 105-104 off just silly mistakes from San Antonio's part. It was just the most ridiculous thing that I've ever seen. Game three, we finally see that Wemby may be a sentient being and knows how to use his brain in a game of basketball. The Spurs respond 115-111 win in New York. And this was when it all kind of went, I don't want to say downhill, but I'd say it got strange. Because to me, as soon as I saw that game three win, I immediately went to overreact. Well, if you want to win in Spurs in six, you got to lose two. Looking back at it, I don't think it's ridiculous. Game three goes their way. Game four really could have, but we won't talk about that one yet. Game three, I mean, they look well. It had played the exact same way that the first two games had. So it wasn't ridiculous to say it after that. The Spurs could very well be up 3-0. Like the Knicks could be up 3-0. The Spurs could be up 3-0 too. I mean, every single game was this close. So they win by 4 in New York. Going into game 4, every game feels pivotal. Everybody's going to say that every time. Every game from game 1, game 2, game 3, everybody's going to say the same thing. Pivotal game, right? But game 4 was genuinely pivotal. Like, that one was that if you could win, right, you tie the series 2-2, it's basically 0-0. And, I mean, I think everybody was kind of okay with that. I think everybody would have been okay with that. Going back to San Antonio for game 5, a lot of momentum. Everybody thought that you were cooked down 2-0. But obviously, if you lose, you're down 3-1. And now you got LeBron James. Now you got to come back from being down 3-1. Only one person's ever done it. I think in that game 4, Wemby kind of lost his cool. I think after that OKC series, I think he kind of just had a really hard time coming down from it. You see in a lot of interviews you talked about how he was after that series win versus OKC. I mean, he said it himself. They're riding a high and they have to come down eventually. And they really wanted to try and come down before the finals, of course, but they didn't. And they kind of lost that. Like, they're cool. Like, what makes them them. They kind of lost that cool while they're this young team, but takes everything so seriously, so emotional. Brady put us all there, but he did put us all in that OKC series. And I think that took a lot out of him. And he couldn't keep that same mentality going forward, going into the NBA Finals series. And obviously, you want them to. You want him to, like, hey, figure it out. But in game 4, right? I mean, you just have one of the most dramatic endings to a game I've ever seen. I think that is probably the craziest game I've ever seen. I mean, they had absolute poor mistakes, just like in game 2. But OG Anunoby, the right hand of God, what a tip in. Tip in with, I mean, to 1.8 seconds left to win the game off of Jalen Brunson bomb from deep. I mean, every game came down to the wire. And New York, in every single matchup, decided in the fourth quarter, we're going to win every single time. They could lose the first, they could lose the second, they could lose the third. Be sure, when they got to the fourth quarter, not the same team who had just played the previous 3 quarters. When they got to the fourth quarter, it was that they decided they had won the game. Like, they had decided, now we've won the game. Which is, like I said, it's just crazy. I mean, that type of pattern to be in every single fourth quarter, that's when we're gonna have Brunson barrage and we're just gonna win. I mean, that's our identity at that point. Like, they get better as a game. One thing we gotta talk about is game 4. Down 29 points at the half, the Knicks in game 4. I mean, they had all the momentum. 2-1. They had all the momentum. The Spurs, they kind of just took some in game 3. But now here's the moment. It's a pivotal moment whether or not you're going to let the Spurs rally back and make this a 7-game series, or you're going to do what you're supposed to do and finish the series. And down 29 points at half, I'm watching and all like, man, Wemby is everything that he said he was. He's everything that everyone thought he was. If Jalen Brunson wasn't born, absolutely. All those things are true if Jalen Brunson wasn't born, because Jalen Brunson decided in the fourth quarter. We're gonna win again. I mean, and he had done it every single game. In the fourth quarter, they decided they were gonna win. And down 29 points, I watched them for the next two quarters slowly chip away, slowly chip away. If the Spurs scored 2 points, they scored three, 1 point chip away. Every time, and they just clawed and clawed and clawed and clawed and clawed until you look down at the score and they're down one with like seconds remaining. Brunson pulls up from deep range, and it's a great shot. And he had been hitting those the whole game, the whole series. He misses this one, and I sigh. Can't believe they got away with this game. But hold on, OG Anunoby with the right hand of God barely just. I mean, he slaps the ball. He doesn't even try and shoot it. He just slaps it. Somehow sinks it. Well, under 2 seconds remaining. My God, I hadn't seen anything like that before. Nothing like that. I mean, of all the 5 games we got to see, yeah, I mean, it's insanity. It's insanity. That is probably the greatest finals game that I watched, maybe outside of LeBron James winning in game 7. But while that game was close, this game was just exciting in its own way. It just very, very, very shocking to have a strong momentum swing for the Spurs from game 3 and to just and see it in action. They're up 30 and to watch it collapse is just insanity. It's insane. I've never seen anything like that. Never seen anything like that. But okay, but moving on though to Jalen Brunson, right? The Finals MVP. A guy like that, just because I feel like you have to give him credit for this series. I mean, he's a Finals MVP. Karl Anthony Towns, beginning of the series, he had a case. OG Anunoby certainly had a case. Mitchell Robinson played great minutes. Josh Hart played iffy minutes. Mikal Bridges played solid minutes. The whole team, outside of OG Anunoby, has some question marks with their play during the series. I will say that. But one thing that just erases all of that is having a guy like Jalen Brunson. When you have somebody like that who can just tie together your whole team, doesn't matter if Josh Hart's playing historically bad for what he had been doing all season. Doesn't matter if Karl Anthony Towns scores 2 points. Doesn't matter if OG Anunoby, actually, he's hitting every shot, so it doesn't matter. But it doesn't matter if Mikal Bridges isn't dropping 20. With a guy like Jalen Brunson who just decides to shut games down. He decides to shut games down. He doesn't just walk in like, I'm going to play my hardest and what happens. He gets on the court and it's like, this game is done. We're going back to New York. And we're champions. Like, he got on the court and was like, we're champions. This is what we do. We're going to go win the final. It's so interesting. I mean, the Finals MVP, I think it wasn't just scoring. He's like controlling the entire tempo. He's stabilizing possessions. You saw that even Fox had moments like that in the Thunder series where he had to come in and kind of settle the game down for Stephon Castle with his insane amount of turnovers. But the thing was, Fox isn't that guy. He's not number one option. He's not Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson is settling the team down and giving you 40. My gosh. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like every game, fell behind, stay composed, slowly pull themselves back into the game, and then they win every single time. They don't panic, and when they get down the end parts of the game, they get better. It's just insanity. Okay, now it's time to be overly critical of my favorite player, Victor Wembanyama. And if you don't know, I'm a Lakers fan, and I am very, disappointed what we're doing in free agency right now. But I won't get into that. I won't get into it. But Victor Wembanyama is my favorite player to watch. I think he's very interesting. I think I love his game. I love his passion, his intensity. But with all that said, while he played like solid games with solid time, with solid minutes, I do like agree that he was playing very well at points. He could not be that stabilizing force. He could not lead them to those wins down the stretch. In fact, he did the opposite. He choked in multiple games. And having a player be my favorite player, right? I'm going to be overly critical of them because they're not my favorite player because I think they suck. They're my favorite player because I think that they're better than everybody else. Or I think they bring a certain thing to the game that is missing. And I think his is emotion. I think it's caring. I think it's just being passionate about what you're doing, being the opposite and the complete kryptonite to people being nonchalant and just careless about the things that they do and they just don't really care and just expecting that like this is given. I mean, he's earning it and he's trying hard and he's emotional about it and he's proud. And I love that. I love that type of player. That's how I want to live my life. That's how I'm glad I get to watch someone play a game. that way and make millions of dollars because of it, but take it like he's making millions of dollars because of it, taking it seriously and being prideful in it. Thing was though, he got too prideful, right? Down 3-1. What does Victor Wembanyama say? Everyone knows we're gonna come back. I get there's being confidence and then there's youthful arrogance. Again, sometimes I watch the NBA guys and I don't think about myself being 24 years old, right? I don't think about some of these guys in the league in the finals are younger than me, right? I just always assume those are professionals. Like, those are grown ass athletes. Sometimes I don't realize that, man, shit, maybe there's a guy in the NBA right now that I'm 5 years fucking older than. Excuse me for my language. But I'm 5 years older than. Sometimes it doesn't hit me. But the same way that I make mistakes, the same way that I'm maybe arrogant, or maybe sometimes that I think too fast and be insensitive and don't think things all the way through. These athletes are the same way. And what's worse is, I mean, they're putting it on a pedestal. They're being magnified. And even with all of that being said, to some extent, they know that, right? So to say I'm down 3-1, everyone in the building knows we're coming back. Man, only one player's ever done that in the entire NBA's history. Only one player's done that. And he's regarded as the best player of all time. So to hear those types of things from Victor Wembanyama, again, I don't know what do you expect him to say down 3-1, right? You don't expect him to say, "Oh, we just lost. That's it. I'm sorry, Mari. I really hope that we could have won." No, obviously you want him to push forward. You want him to be confident that they can go do it. That's how those things happen. They never happen because, like, look, no one's ever done it. We're just gonna try it and hopefully we get it. That's not gonna happen that way. So while I can respect the attempt to rally the troops, I do think it was a bit of youthful arrogance, and I think it ties back to how he felt coming off of that high that he got during the OKC series, which is, we just defeated the reigning champs, right? He defeated Chet Holmgren, kind of arch rival of his that he's been playing since they were 16 years old. Again, a lot of emotion behind that. Going to his first NBA Finals at just 22 years old, with teammates who are 19, teammates who are 21, teammates who are younger than him or just as old as him or barely older than him. I think that in his head it didn't click. I don't think it ever clicked what is at stake now with the NBA Finals. It's great what you did to get here, but now that you're here, I think that was that side of him that I think he just lost, and I think that's ultimately what made them lose. Your star player got way too high. He's already 7'4". He doesn't need to get any higher, have his head in the clouds as much as he does already. But he did, and I think they caught him like that. And I think you see it each time, like a player gets too high on themselves, they think they're, just everything, they're God's gift to earth, and they don't realize that it doesn't matter how much height you have, how much talent you have. That Knicks team was gunning for it. They wanted it, and from the jump from that series when it started, they were gonna have it. And for Wemby, it felt like, oh, like we're going to get it, or maybe it was better choice of words, like it belongs to us. Like we think we're gonna get it. I'm just kind of assuming that if I just beat the defending champs, right? Who are these guys, right? And the Knicks came in with a chip on their shoulder. They didn't come in thinking they're better than. They came in thinking we're gonna fucking lose. Again, excuse my language, but they came in thinking we're gonna lose and we're not gonna be able, and we're gonna have to fight an uphill battle because it's a really good opponent. So they took them seriously as to how talented they were, and that's why they played to their fullest extent each time. And when they did, I'm telling you, after that first two games, it clicked for Jalen Brunson. It's no longer try my hardest and we win. It's that we can beat him, and we could beat him in four if we wanted to. And it just became, we're going to beat him each night. Like, we're going to beat him. If we play him, we're going to beat him. It doesn't matter if we're down 3 or if we're down 30. We're going to beat him. That's just, like, at this point, it became somewhere they're going to play their hardest. And once they figured it out, it was that we're going to beat him each time. We're going to beat him. It doesn't matter. They didn't have to dominate every single game. The Knicks, they didn't have to. They didn't have to come out every game and try and go up 30 on them. You want to know why? We can say that they didn't have to do that, and that they didn't have to do that because they didn't do it. They came in every game and lost every first quarter, almost lost every second quarter. But what they did was they never slowed down. They continued up and up and up as the game went on. They never started a game high and got down. But that was to me, very poetic as to what was already happening with the Spurs, who were coming off that series hot. right? They're super high. The Knicks, however, has started the season rough, and as the season progressed, they got better and better and found their groove and when they got into the playoffs, the doubt really crept in. They went down. They were down 2-1 to the Hawks in the first round. The only team that beat them twice. They were down 2-1. And after that, they didn't lose again until game 3 of the NBA Finals. They had 3 unbeaten games in the first round, right? Then they went on to win 4 more in the second round, 4 more. They had went 11 games straight. Then the 2 in the finals. They went 13 games straight in the playoffs without a loss. They got better as the season progressed from the beginning to the finish line. The Spurs had started really hot and they stayed hot until it got to the biggest moment. And that was really the deciding factor, was that they had stayed so high on themselves and they mistaken OKC as the finish line. And once they did that, once they beat OKC, to them they had finished the race. They had done everything they're supposed to do. To the Knicks, when they had got to the NBA Finals, they pictured that as a starting line. And because of that, the Spurs lost. And they never had a chance to win with that type of mindset. As soon as they came into that final stage and they had done it, they had made it there, they had beaten OKC, they had lost from that very moment. I think even a less talented team than the Knicks could have beaten the Spurs with that mindset if they would have came in thinking, hey, we finally made it to the finals. The work has just begun. Just begun, because that was the attitude the Knicks had. The work is now starting. We've done all this precursor, we've done all this warming up. These 7-game series, these 4 wins that we could possibly get, this is the actual work that defines our legacy. The 82 before this, the 12 wins it took to get to the finals, all that stuff, it doesn't matter. This series, and since the Spurs didn't see that, I don't think they ever had a chance, which was unfortunate because I think they're such a good team. I think that they're going to be a great team for years to come. But that youthful arrogance and that just being like a young dumb team who's uber talented, they gotta fix the mental. They have to understand the finals is where the work begins. That is where people remember your name. The accolades are great, but they're going to remember if you can win it in big games. That's something that still gets held over LeBron James' head, having lost so many finals, 6, and that's something that they usually keep Michael Jordan in greatest of all time conversations due to the fact he's never lost in the finals. So now that is now something they get to hang over Victor Wembanyama's very tall head, that you lost in the finals. Michael Jordan never did that. And it's unfortunate because some of the failures of a player, especially one at 22, and LeBron James was probably just as young when he lost his first finals. Very difficult, you know. It's very skewed. It's looking at one situation, but with that loss, I think it plays a bigger role than what people may give it. But again, am I going to hold against him? No. Do I think people who regularly watch the game of basketball and who can and kind of zoom out and look at it as a full career versus just one moment, I think that they're going to be able to rank him much higher than what others may at the end of at the end of his career. But I mean, again, time will tell, and we'll have to wait to see how the rest of his career pans out. But I definitely don't think this is a. I definitely view this as a bump in the road, not the end of it for Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs. I just, again, hope that they can figure out how to ride the highs for a bit and then come down when it's time to get back to work. Okay. But my final takeaway, one of the things I want to make sure that gets touched on, because as much as I'm disappointed Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs for falling short, I think 2 things have to be remembered from looking at this series. The Knicks snapped a 50-plus year drought for championship. 53 years that was in the making to end the drought. That should be number 1, man. That was a very deserving championship. The Knicks, I mean, they worked so hard. I mean, that team was full of players who got counted out. You got to think about Jalen Brunson. He came in from Villanova, undersized. You know, they did not give him. They did not. I remember watching him and Villanova win that championship. They did not give him any flowers coming into the draft. They were not. They were unconcerned about anything that he had done in college. Right. I do not believe they gave him respect coming out of college. And when the Mavericks drafted him, I thought he was such a great point guard. I thought he was going to go next to Luka forever. Obviously, you saw they did Luka, right? And before that, Jalen Brunson was the same way. When he got paid for the Knicks, the first contract, they said it was too much. When he took the pay cut, they said that he was out of his mind. what type of star player would take a big pay cut like that. He went from a player who seemed like he had way too much money to a player who should not be taking that low of an offer because he wanted to keep the team first and he wanted to finish what he sought out to do, which would bring a championship to the New York Knicks. His father, as the coach, right, as an assistant coach, he wanted to bring a ring to New York. Karl Anthony Towns traded from Minnesota. So many family members affected by COVID. 7 total plus family members lost and taken to COVID. Had to face so much adversity, fought through it, got traded from Minnesota, which he viewed as his home, to New York, and battled through 2 full years of criticism. Mikal Bridges, who had to completely change his shot in his stint with New York to make his game work. OG Anunoby, who had just came from a Raptors team that was honestly right after their 2019 championship, struggling, right? Mitchell Robinson fighting through injuries. I mean, it is a team full of Josh Hart, almost an NBA journeyman. I love that the Lakers drafted him. I hated that we traded him. Went to the Trailblazers, went to the Pelicans, was all over the place, found his place in New York, and kept that team together, an emotional glue. That team is full of players. Jose Alvarado, just tough, gritty guys who wanted to get it done, and by any means necessary, they did that. That's one of the main things I think that should be remembered from this series is how hard that team fought. I'm not sure if I will ever see a team that laser focused, catching their strides at the perfect time, like we saw the New York Knicks did. One of the greatest things I've ever seen, and I think when I'm old and withering away, that I'm going to look at that Knicks team and go, I'm not sure if I've ever seen anything like that. And I hope that that isn't the case. I hope there's even more great basketball championship runs to come. But if not, I'm very okay. I'm more than pleased with what I saw from them. And I think the second thing that needs to be remembered is Game 4. That comeback has to go down as one of the greatest games in NBA Finals history, in NBA history, to come down 30 points. But to come down 30 points in the finals, to go up 3-1, I think that's one of the greatest games of all time. And when it's all said and done, people will look back at that game and have it in its top 5 games ever played. It has to. It has to. Even though the Spurs fell short, I'm going to hope that this is not the last time that we see them in the finals. I hope it's not the last time that we see these two teams in the finals. And I hope it's not the last time that we see these two teams in the finals going against each other. We'll have to see, though. Like I said, time will tell. And just remember, it's all a game. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like, subscribe, comment. What did you think of the NBA 2026 NBA Finals?